Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakahakodash, Barakathum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who rule and teach well. In peace and salutations to you, sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video, and I'm going to start it off in Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 9. For lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country, and they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be taken. Their arrows shall be as of a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain. And that Babylon is speaking of the virgin daughter of Babylon, Babylon the Great, the United States of America, and that North Country is speaking of Russia, and that assembly of great nations from the North Country are not only the allies of Russia, such as China, Iran, and North Korea, but also the allies of the United States of America, such as Britain, France, Germany, these other NATO nations, etc., etc., that during World War III, they're going to ally themselves with Russia and betray the United States of America. And all those different countries are going to altogether shoot 200 million nuclear missiles onto the United States of America, Babylon, which is what those arrows are. And it's going to turn it into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, and then a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland afterwards. And the reason that Russia is known as the North Country in this verse is because what's north of the United States of America? Here's a map. You've got the United States right here, then you've got Canada, the Arctic Ocean region, and then Russia. And in this video, I'll be profiling a clip from RT America's YouTube channel titled Russia Way Ahead of US in Scramble for Arctic, to further solidify that point that that North Country in Jeremiah chapter 50 verse 9 is Russia. And as we'll see in this clip, Russia is building up its military capabilities, which best believe that there are nuclear capabilities up there as well, to eventually, during World War III, shoot those nuclear missiles onto the United States of America. And it's a well-known fact that Russia shooting missiles from itself across the Arctic Ocean region, as well as shooting missiles from the Arctic Ocean region to reach the United States of America, would be the shortest trajectory time for those missiles to reach the United States.
Refocusing our attention now to the Arctic Ocean and the renewed interest by some world powers to militarize the region. We take a look at the latest. It was just announced that the U.S. and Norwegian militaries will plan for more Arctic training exercises in the near future. U.S. Deputy General Peter Andrisiak said that the Arctic is something, quote, all U.S. commands are looking at. Additionally, we're hearing that more Scandinavian countries are arming themselves amid increased activity in the region. Meanwhile, Russia is matching NATO's military expansion with a mass buildup of its own. And not to be outdone, earlier this year, the Brookings Institute released a report claiming China has been posturing itself to be the next, quote, polar great power for decades. So could this be the new frontier in geopolitics? I would say yes.
The new frontier in biblical prophecy.
It's definitely.
The Most High is putting the spirit on these different heathen nations to converge around that Arctic Ocean region to fulfill Jeremiah 50 verse 9, those assembly of nations unto the North Country shooting their nuclear-tipped arrows onto the United States of America, not sparing any of them on this whore.
Going in that direction. Well, to help us break it all down, we have former Pentagon official Michael Maloof. Look, when we talk about the Arctic, when the Arctic's in a lot of the headlines, it has to do with the environmental aspects. You know, a story that came out today was talking about links between melting Arctic ice and western U.S. fires that flare in the fall. It has to do with atmospheric conditions, a lot of stuff I'm not going to get into detail now. But also, one of the big points about the Arctic, and something we've covered, certainly here on RT, is about the militarization and the increased...
Which is not just a big point, it's the main point.
militarization of the Arctic, the geopolitical strategy involved with, excuse me, the world powers, Russia, North America, NATO, and then China, I don't know, waiting in the wings, but, you know, there, looking for dominance as well. So, you know the region, you know the politics, the geopolitics. Throughout the Cold War and all these decades, there's always been militaries, Russia and the United States particularly. So is there this increased militarization?
Indeed, absolutely. And it's going to become, pardon the pun, the next frozen conflict, because with the melting of the ice up there, it's creating new passages. It's allowing for the introduction of more submarine warfare. Plus, when you look at the globe from the perspective of the North Pole, it's the shortest distance to all capitals. And if you put ballistic missiles up there,
right,
you have very little, if any, warning, especially now with hypersonics.
Which Russia is leading in. Again, an assembly of great nations from the North Country, and they shall set themselves in array against her, the United States of America, Babylon. From thence she shall be taken. Their arrows, their nuclear missiles shall be as of a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain. And as you just heard this guy say, hey, the Arctic is the shortest route to any of the world's capitals.
This adds a whole new dimension to geopolitical, geostrategic thinking. And I might add that up until now, the U.S. military has ignored it. The Russian military has been up there for quite some time. Sure, when you look at the map from the North Pole perspective, you see Russia occupying a large portion, but right up at the tip is Alaska. But we've ignored all that until now, with seeing the extent to which the Russian military is embedding itself, training constantly. Our people aren't trained for that.
And that's all through the will of the Most High, putting that spirit on those Russians to go back into that confrontational Soviet Union spirit. This is Ezekiel chapter 38. I'm going to start at verse 1. The word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, which is speaking of Russia, because in the scriptures, besides being known as the North Country in Jeremiah 50 verse 9, in Ezekiel 38 verse 2, Russia is also known as Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws. The Most High is spiritually putting hooks into the jaws of these Russian Edomites and pulling and turning them back into, again, that old confrontational Soviet Union spirit. Hence why they're building up their military assets in not only the Arctic Ocean region, but in other places all across the planet. They're building up ties, which include military ties with countries like Sudan. They've refurbished their seaports in Syria. And then, of course, you're seeing this situation going on with Ukraine, showing that if NATO and the U.S. want to come up to their borders, they're more than happy to respond in kind. And I will bring thee forth and all thine army, horses and horsemen, and all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords, all their different military hardware, from tanks, Arctic region snow vehicles, ballistic missile systems, etc., etc. And not only are they bringing forth all their military hardware up into that Arctic Ocean region, hey, they're going to bring their military hardware down into that Middle Eastern region as well for the battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat, the War of Armageddon, in Joel chapter 3, verse 9. And Russia, again, already has a presence in the Middle East, especially in Syria, with them refurbishing their seaport there and them having other military assets there due to them helping Bashar al-Assad during the Syrian civil war. And also, with the U.S. scrambling to play catch-up with building up its forces in that Arctic Ocean region that can play into Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 43. The king of Babylon hath heard the report of them, and his hands waxed feeble. Anguish took hold of him, and pangs as of a woman in travail. And ultimately, the king of Babylon is speaking of these elites, like the Rothschilds and Rockefellers that own this country. But on a lower level, it can speak of the president of Babylon, the United States of America. And best believe that these presidents and those in his cabinet and the military hath heard the report of them, the prophets of the Most High, the true men of the Lord, chiefly through GMS or Great Millstone, going out onto the highways and byways preaching this word, as well as putting up video epistles like this, saying, for instance, that North country is Russia, and they're going to shoot their missiles from that Arctic Ocean region to hit the United States of America. So they're preparing accordingly. And what's funny is that these higher-ups, and not just the United States of America, but in these different countries, rub shoulders with the elites, and a lot of them are on that same type of time, on that illuminated one time, that Freemason time, and a lot of them are witches and warlocks pushing for that NW0 agenda. And some of them think that they can honestly avert prophecy. But as it says in Isaiah 55, verse 11, so shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please. No matter what you people in the United States of America or Babylon do to try to stop Russia from shooting their nuclear missiles, you won't be able to stop it. And also to you Russians out there, because best believe that their higher-ups watch these videos as well. Even though you're going to defeat the United States of America during World War III, you or China or any other nation doesn't have next. The only kingdom that's next to come in rulership is the kingdom of heaven under the true children of Israel, who are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And we're going to rule in the kingdom of heaven for eternity, and you're going to be our subjects underneath us. And if it's hard for you to believe that these higher-ups in the government don't watch these videos, take this in mind. A couple of years ago, during President Trump's term in office, he posted a tweet saying, well, I bet the black Hebrew Israelites are happy to see that we're tearing each other apart. And first and foremost, as we always have to tell you, we're not the black Hebrew Israelites. We're simply the Hebrew Israelites. But with President Trump putting a tweet like that, it goes to show that the kings of Babylon hath heard the report of us.
Just beginning to get into that a little bit, as your piece pointed out, and they've done some in Colorado, in the north, in the snowy parts of in the mountains and things like that. But we've ignored it. Russians have 40 icebreakers, nuclear-powered icebreakers. We have 2.
Yeah, wow, that says a lot. And we're looking at video now, and we've seen a lot of the video of the Russian military training in the Arctic. Mm-hmm. And certainly they are well attuned to the region. And I know the Norwegians have raised some contention about Russian training. And there's been, from some of the reports that we've even done ourselves about the concerns over the borders,
sure,
and some of those regional border disputes.
The UN has an effort underway now to try and keep it in a peaceful environment, and there's a lot of desire to mine minerals under the sea because of the accessibility, plus the passageways. Mm-hmm. But there's always that military aspect.
I believe this is video of the Russian military.
Yeah, they are constantly training up there for that purpose, and our people are not. And this is...
Well, why is that? Why is the... I mean, the United States has... We have bases up there, and we certainly...
In certain parts, but we're not looking at the vast expanse and the extent to which the Russians have been doing training. Now you have the Chinese that want to come in. Chinese train up in the Himalayas.
Well, and that's...
And so with this video, you get the point. But if you've got that spiritual eye salve, you can clearly see that biblical prophecy is taking place right before our very eyes. We truly are living in the last seconds of these last days, the last seconds of the rulership of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites or the so-called white people, before the ushering in of the kingdom of heaven, where the children of Israel will rule for eternity. And like I've been saying throughout the video, that North Country Russia and that assembly of nations under her are going to take Babylon, the United States of America, with those 200 million nuclear missiles. We're just going to turn it into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, and then a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland afterwards. But now back in Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 41, behold, a people shall come from the north country, Russia, and a great nation, and many kings shall be raised up from the coasts of the earth, from the ends of the earth, that assembly of great nations unto that north country, not only Russia's allies, but the United States of America's allies as well, that are going to turn against her at some point during World War III. They shall hold the bow and the lance, also speaking of those nuclear missiles, just as they called them arrows in Jeremiah 50 verse 9, because what you have to remember is that when the prophets saw these visions thousands of years ago, they didn't know what a modern day nuclear missile was, so they would describe it the best way they could with what they knew during their times. Ancient weapons of war like bows and lances, arrows, flying swords, spears, you name it. They are cruel and will not shew mercy. Their voice shall roar like the sea, and they shall ride upon horses, everyone put in array like a man to the battle against thee, O daughter of Babylon, that virgin daughter, Babylon the Great, the United States of America, which is also known as spiritual Sodom and Egypt, as pursuant to Revelation 11 verse 8. And when those nuclear missiles hit this place, as we're about to read, as the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighbor cities thereof. And like I just said, besides being known as Babylon the Great in the scriptures, the United States of America is also known as spiritual Sodom and Egypt, saith Yahweh. So shall no man abide there, neither shall any son of man dwell therein. When those nuclear missiles hit this place, it's going to become a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland where man, woman, or child will never set foot on ever again. It's going to stand as an eternal memorial as to what a wicked kingdom looked like and how not to govern the earth, and what the judgment and punishment was for afflicting the apple of the Most High's eye, the children of Israel, who were again the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And after the dust settles, eventually only desert creatures are going to dwell here, as it says in 39. Therefore, the wild beasts of the desert with the wild beasts of the islands shall dwell there, and the owls shall dwell therein, and it shall be no more inhabited forever by man, woman, or child, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. So that's it with this video. And with this video, I hope you sincere Akim were edified. Just keep strong and keep pushing this word. As we can clearly see, we're almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.